Welcome to another video on the Life After Brady channel. Today we're going to take a look at a little overview of what we could see in Tom Brady's Man in the Arena documentary set to be released in 2021 by ESPN. Here's an overview of what it looks like. The documentary will be produced by Religion of Sports Gotham Shapora, who did Tom vs. Time with Brady a couple of years back, as well as Brady's 199 Productions. It looks like it's going to kind of be the kickoff of 199 Productions. They're going to try and get that off the ground with something big like this. They may have some other smaller stuff working, but obviously Brady's the focus of that, and they're going to use Brady to the best of their ability. The reports I'm seeing is it's going to be 9 episodes on ESPN, focusing on the 9 Super Bowl appearances and some perspective from Brady on that. And then to me, when I read that, this is not a documentary. Don't read it as a documentary. This is going to be Brady's perspective on those Super Bowls, kind of giving his glimpse of his experiences and what led him to those and what allowed him to have that success. I mean, don't think of it as a critique of what Brady did in those Super Bowls or how the Patriots played. It's not going to be a team thing. It's not going to be how the Patriots won. It's going to be what allowed Brady to be successful in those games of either getting them to the Super Bowl or eventually winning it 6 times. So with that being said, we're going to take a look at the 9 possible themes of what Brady was thinking those years. And we'll start with, obviously, the first one, 2001. A couple things jump out to me. First, 9/11. Brady isn't even starting for the Patriots at the time of 9/11. Drew Bledsoe is still the still the Patriots quarterback. Obviously, profound effect on the world up until COVID-19 and possibly with COVID-19. The most important event in many people's lifetime, so I could see Brady talking about that a little bit. The theme was "We are all Patriots." It wasn't about Tom then; it was about the team. So I could see him taking the team perspective then, and then you get the Brady and Bledsoe thing. He replaces Bledsoe week 3. He doesn't give up the starting spot after Bledsoe's comes back. They've talked about that before. I don't really see Brady getting into that. That's kind of gonna nag at Bledsoe a little bit, and then I also think it's gonna give some bad memories to current day because Belichick is kind of turned to go to a new quarterback instead of bending over backwards to keep Tom. So I don't see him going that way, which leaves the 2 of the 3 final games. The tuck rule, I didn't realize this. Brady threw for 300 yards, 32 for 52, in that driving snowstorm. So certainly could be something about that. You could have the tuck rule. I don't see them talking about the tuck rule. Brady, he knows he kind of got away with it. I don't see him talking about that one. And then, which leads me to most likely you're going to talk about that final drive and what led him to thought he could be successful in that final drive. He's talked about it of he was a big time quarterback at Michigan. He had success in bowl games there, and to him a bowl game was the same as a Super Bowl at that point, the same amount of stress. So he thought he could drive him down the field with 9 plays, 53 yards, a minute 30 to go. Famously John Madden say they need to take a knee, and he decides not to. Belichick and Charlie Weiss at the time. I'd guess that will be the theme of what led them to have confidence in that. Moving on to the next Super Bowl, 2003, the Panthers 32-29 victory. To me, this is the start of, all right, year 1 was that, coming of age, we do it a little bit. 2003, 2004, I mean, they're the most dominant team. I'll show in the next slide, but they go 34-2, or 34-4. And this 2-year stretch, including 14-2 in the regular season. After going 2-2, they lose to Laura Malloy week 1, famously 31-0, and then finish the season with 31-1 win, 31-0 win. Excuse me. I could see him talking about that, but there's kind of more games down the road that you'd focus on the regular season. I don't see them talking about them. You have the start in the Peyton rivalry. Looking back at these games, this is probably the one that he would talk about. He's got some ugly memories a couple years later, but the first win versus Peyton, 24-14 in the AFC title game, and then the Super Bowl, he played great, 32 for 48, 354 yards. So you start to see the Rams Super Bowl. They score the 2 touchdowns, but really that's the defense stopping him. Versus this Super Bowl, this is Brady. The Panthers are leading. They have a fourth quarter comeback. He drives them 6 plays, 37 yards to kick the game-winning field goal to end the game. I'd guess it's going to be about that fourth quarter again because it was pretty special. That leads us to the Eagles Super Bowl. Again, This is about Brady coming of age and really being a top quarterback in my mind. Early on, it was all about the defense, and then you start to see as this later dynasty, famously Teddy Bruschi and guys hosting those dynasty newspaper covers after this game. This is, Brady's team. 14-2, 34-4. As I said, in that 2-year stretch, Brady's got a top 5 offense, and I could see him kind of talking about that and how he was, shifting his mindset to just being a good quarterback, for a great team to a great quarterback for a great team. They beat the Steelers on the road again. This early part of the decade, it was about beating the Steelers. That was the main rival before really Peyton really has a leg up on them. Again, the fourth quarter pretty good. Tied 14-14 entering the fourth quarter, and then they outscore them 10-7 to win 24-21. Would be, I guess, where they take it. But I kind of see here maybe more some Peyton and Steelers rivalry stuff. The next 2 Super Bowls, 2007, 2011, will be interesting to see how he tackles them. This is where it gets ugly. They lose the games. Especially 2007. This could be a rough one for him to talk about. I'll be curious where he takes it. 16-0. He wins his first MVP. His first year with Welker and Moss. They're virtually unstoppable. He still hasn't fully been removed from Super Bowls. They only were removed from the Super Bowl 2 years. So they're a top team. And in the playoffs, it just kind of crashed and burned. Held under 275 yards in all 3 playoff games, famously sacked 5 times by the Giants in the Super Bowl. And then, Eli outdoes him. As he said on Twitter, Eli shows up in the fourth quarter, and yet again, here, this was the original of it. Eli shows up for, throws a game-winning touchdown with 35 seconds left, which was a theme again in 2011 when they lost 21-17 against the Super Bowl. 3 years removed from the previous Super Bowl, at this point, Welker and Moss are gone. I think Welker might still be here at this point, but, you're transitioning to a new offense. It's been 7 years since an actual Super Bowl win, but there's still, he's won 2 MVPs in the last 4 years. He's the face of the NFL at this point, coming out of the lockout. He's dating Giselle at this point, might be married to Giselle at this point, excuse me. They're the number 1 seed, so he's, on top of the league, but to me, it's a little bit of Peyton Manning's career at this point. Very successful, great offense, but not winning. And that theme continues here. They lose to the Giants again. He has a okay game, but not a great game. 276 yards, touchdown, and an interception. And the fourth quarter would be the curious one to talk about for me. He has an interception. The Giants he punted at the Giants 44 at the Manningham catch, and then they failed to score in the final 57 seconds. So kind of coming up short there, very different than his other Super Bowls. I'll be curious how they set up the rest of this. So Super Bowls 6, 7, 8, and 9 for Brady. Start with the Seahawks victory, and 10 years removed from a Super Bowl, it's clearly a different Brady. He's not that young guy that was a part of just great defenses. He's not, 2000 through 2011 where he's winning MVPs and is, the number 1 offense in the league. But he's got an edge, and that's what I think the theme will be of these Super Bowls. Jimmy G coming in. Later on, this plays a bigger role, but I'm sure the fire was there of, you draft a guy in the second round, I'll show you. And I would love for him to talk about the AFC title game and Deflategate in either this one or the next one. There is 0 chance he does it because this is going to be on ESPN. ESPN, obviously, the leading agitator in this story with the false reports that came out after this AFC title game. It'd be fantastic if he tore them apart because of it, but it's not going to happen. I'd guess it's about the Super Bowl. They're losing 24-14. People forget that. Everyone remembers the Malcolm play. Everyone remembers, I think it's Amendola with the catches. But 24-14, this game was over. And against especially that Seahawks defense that was absolutely phenomenal this time period, they come back and win 28-24. I'm going to guess it's about how he's mastering that defense and how he knows what to expect to be the theme. And then 2016 probably will be the best episode, I imagine, for a couple of different reasons. Again, going back to the Deflategate, we spent the first 4 games of the year. I would love it if this is just a complete Tom Brady edge, Tom Brady F you to the NFL. I'm still the guy. I'm still the best player. He comes back. They go 11-1 in the regular season. He has a 28-2 touchdown to interception ratio. and they beat the first two AFC opponents by 18 or more points. I mean, he was just at a different level. It was the revenge tour was on. They were not stopping. I'd love for him to talk about that edge, because it's the clearest point to me of that edge. And to me, you can portray that into the edge, into the the lunacy, I would say. The 28-3 comeback is where the story will probably focus. But it takes some sort of delusion to believe that you can come back and win 28-3. And Brady has that delusion. And this is, he obviously had it before this in order to have it, but has had it since then because of this. 43 for 62, 466 yards, only the 2 touchdowns. But he was in such complete control of that game, especially as they come back to win 34-28. And that's what you'll see. Speaking of kind of mastery, I think that's what you're going to see in this Super Bowl. Talk about, he's 40 years old, wins the MVP in 2017. A good year, but not as good as the year before, in my mind. 13-3 regular season, especially after starting 2-2. The Jaguars would be an interesting theme. It's kind of the forgotten game, I would say, because the Jaguars should have won this game. They were winning going into the fourth quarter, and then the Miles Jack fumble goes the opposite way for them, and the Patriots thankfully win 14-3. Be curious if they talk about that game heavily, but I imagine they won't. And then this is also a fine line for Brady. He goes 28 for 48, 505 yards. Throws for 3 touchdowns. They only score 33 points, but you're not going to say the offense lost the game. I mean, they didn't punt. They missed a field goal, and then they had a turnover and downs from the 35, where you probably would have thought they would have kicked a field goal, and then just kind of bad luck with the clock. They end of the half and the end of the game, or the other, besides the fumble, the reasons that they didn't score on 5 of their drives. Kind of a fine line here of the offense is very good, but the offense doesn't do enough to win. The Nick Foles magic is obviously there. I'm not sure what they're going to talk about for this episode, which will lead to the final episode, the Rams Super Bowl. 41 years old. They're going to beat the Rams 13-3. If this was in 5 years, I'd say this is definitely about how Brady beats Mahomes or outduels Mahomes. I don't know if they'll do it so quick. Mahomes hasn't fully had a chance to put his place in history. He's clearly the most talented player in the NFL right now, and I think it's wide regarded how talented he is. With that being said, I still think they'll focus on the Chiefs game. The Super Bowl is just so boring. Yes, they score 10 points in the fourth quarter. They unlock the defense, but that's more of a McDaniels and Belichick craftiness thing of how they use the mismatches to get down the field there. I don't think it will be about that. I think it's going to be about the going into Arrowhead, again, just that winner's mentality. We know we're going to win. Outdoes Mahomes. Mahomes, just scoring left and right. It will be a little jaded because, clearly the Chiefs didn't get the ball. That's part of the reason the Patriots won. But, hey, winners get to write the stories, and that's how I imagine this will go. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed the video, please like and give a comment, and we'll see you soon.